situation in your home, relationship, bring it on.
Souls to Jesus program every Monday to Saturday 2 to 4 p.m. only on My TV.
For joining us. And we were just here last Saturday, so it's been a blessing just to be back here at the studio to serve you once more with this program. I believe this is a normal program for you every Saturday that you do your visitation and do other things, other youth activities before you sit down and tune into the program. We would like to say also Mbulavinaka and praise the Lord and greetings to all our new Methodist youth all over the world. And I believe the different timing, some of you get to watch the program later. So we would like to say thank you for taking the time, and also to your dear parents in facilitating it and seeing through for you to be part of this program. So thank you once again for that. Well, I have just been so blessed this morning to be joined by my daughter and my daughter-in-law again for another a second Saturday, because after last Saturday I told them you need to come back and share more details into your life that will help somebody that is listening today. So we would like to welcome everybody. Would you want to say welcome to anyone that is listening to us this morning before we roll out with the program?
Well, good morning to everyone out there who's listening. I hope that whatever we're going to share today will inspire you, or also make you have a reassessment of your life, or reflect on your actions. And also to those parents that are out there, maybe it'll help you change ways of approaching your children. Yes, I hope our sharing will be a blessing to you all. Thank you so much for screening in.
Yes. Nadia, would you like to say hello to people that are listening to us this morning?
Bulavinaka to everyone who is tuning in this beautiful morning. Like Rosi has said, I hope that our sharing today will encourage you as a teenager or as a young mom or as a young couple this beautiful morning. Thank you.
Vinaka. Well, to the youth, we will remind you again, the word of God, it says in Jeremiah 29:11, I alone know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, never to harm you, but to bring about the future that you hope for. And I will always emphasize on Ephesians 6:1, it says that we must honor our parents, honor our mom and our dads. Not only it will go well with you, but also you live longer when you honor your parents and you also follow and obey them and follow their commands. And there is a two Bible verse I'm always using on the youth, because I believe that whatever you're going through, He's got a great plan for you. No matter how bad it is, always remember He has a plan for you. No matter how much you don't like it, remember He has a plan for you. And maybe you failed in too many ways. You are at the crossroad of your life that you want to give up. At times you want to commit suicide or feeling so depressed. I want to remind you today that this God will never fail you, and He's telling you that His plans for you is to prosper you. And maybe you're having this question, prosper? With what I'm going through, prosper? That word is meaningless to me. But I would like to be the voice of God in your life to tell you there's always a promise, and this God, He is faithful. And also as we direct you, especially so with their sharing to you this morning, and for the previous program that we've had, that the youth took the stand to share what they go through in life or their life stories. Those are meant to give you insight on which direction to take, can help you with a few tips on how to manage it better, that it's always prevail for you to always honor your parents. Maybe you raise your hand and you say, no, I'm not with my mom and dad. I don't have any parents with me, but whoever is your guardians. Can be your grandpa and your nana. It can be your mbu, your tua, or it can be auntie and uncle. It can be anybody who is looking after you. They are considered your guardians. And not only that, you honor them like you honor your parents, because they are doing or looking after you with a parental role to make you to be a better young lady and the best young man. So on that note, on the sharing that we've done from last Saturday, I just want to give a quick recap. She was actually sharing about her life with things that she went through, what she faced. And this morning, I shared a little bit on the Family Table Talk to say, and I actually made reference to the Saturday program last Saturday, when after that program, we stayed back for a good 20 minutes to half an hour, just having a good laugh as we recap after the program is done. And, on the outset, she was brought up in a very protected atmosphere, full of love, provision, but she chose to go either way. She went out looking for the challenges out there. Or she looked out for the abusive atmosphere out there. But for my daughter-in-law, for Asinate, she was brought up in a place or in a home that she faced abuse all the time, or it's either verbal, or it's either everything that is not going right, or the fear, or everything that is instilled in her growing up. But she was looking out for peace, for joy, to be loved, feel that love. And they went opposite direction. This one from this end going this side, and this side going this side. So we want to remind you, which side are you in at the moment? The abusive side, like you want to get out of that atmosphere side, or the side that you feel so loved and so special and so valued. And whichever side that you are in, listen to their stories for you to know which direction you choose and what are the repercussions of your decisions. So we would like to encourage you youth as you listen to us today. They are sharing their stories not because they are saying that, what they go through that you shouldn't, but they're trying to say we have been through this, and there are things that we could have changed. There are things that shouldn't have happened, but we've lived it, we've survived it, which means if you're halfway through, there's still hope that you will survive. If you have gone through the whole thing, like them, then if you see them today and hear their stories today, there is a hope that can change. Or if you haven't, step into it. Kaya kay kundo talendren ko o kundo pa mo si ulu tiko vena ke tai vale, de ko sarongo nga na ka tawa se tiko ningo ik sarni kila. Kaya ka on na ka batik ngaya, on na ya na bonoya. So we can then tumbutumbu can tell anyone the varro chicken matakaniko, and don't want to be not daron in dami, the vitan look in the kirin the vada to catch on matakaniko on a family table talk. Semani vada to non talendren the luvenda. Find the time to hold them and hug them. Sometimes you hug them, they push you, and tell them that you love them. Because I was stressing the point this morning to tell the children, you will never find another love that your parents will offer you. Apart from your parents, apart from your grandparents, and the people very close to your family. That love is irreplaceable. So when it's there, sometimes we abuse it, we don't acknowledge it, and sometimes we don't realize how nice and how good and how great it is until you lose it. So on that note, now I will switch to the two young ladies to share the stories. We will actually start with Rosi Magellan this morning, or Vulaono this morning. So, like last week when you shared a bit on that. But if from your angle, growing up in a home, there is devotion time, fasting time, everything godly time. Movie time is still like control time. Speaking from that standpoint, just an encouragement to the youth that are joining us today. Some of them, they actually are pastors' children or senior pastors' children, or they are children of home that are really staunch in their faith. For you to share, because you're the one who tasted that. Yeah. Sometimes it's like you are trapped. Yeah, you feel trapped. But your heart, it's screaming out, I want to go dancing. And then your father and your mother saying, you go churching, you're hearing this, but you're excited, wanting something. Yeah. So can you share with them? Because, you obviously choose the other one to hear that small voice that was screaming inside of you. But, what are you going to share with them? Because it took you that long to be able to come back. And that wilderness moment was not even worth it. If you have to summate it, it's not even worth to waste your years to go that way. So if you can share from that standpoint, it will help some of them that are listening today.
I guess, Mom, like how you were saying, being for those of you that daughters of senior pastors, deacons, priests, whichever form of leadership your parents hold in a community or a church. I agree with you. Sometimes it's just irritating when you hear your parents constantly, like everything is a schedule. It's like a routine. Like to a point, it becomes like you're just doing it because it's part of the program. At one moment, I felt trapped because I started to see my friends from school, because you interact with people outside of your home.
And you know the life out there.
And it's bound to happen. Like, but then they always say, you give a person an inch, they go a mile. And I believe that phrase. If
because
you're not careful,
took the inch.
I took the mile. I took the mile, and it took me how many years to come back? What I would like to encourage those of you that your parents hold prominent positions, whether in the community or in churches, priests or whatsoever. The minute you feel trapped, I would say take your time and assess. I guess that's why we always hear Auntie Rai always telling us to list down, and that takes us back to listing down your items, your goals, your achievements. Because I didn't have a purpose back then. I was just trying to enjoy life. I had no way to set me on course, something to look forward to. Because you have no goal, no dream. Because they always say no dream is too big. So right now, I encourage you, whatever you have on your mind that you want to be, write it down, because that is what will set your course from where you are. Because I didn't have that. And even though I was in a loving environment, I still chose to do what I saw that brought destruction to other children. Can you imagine children that were abused whatsoever coming to my family home?
We had at one time, we had about 20 plus children from different homes that came from broken homes, to be actual. And we were looking after them in addition to the children, and it became our family. So our priority was to send them to school, and I look for the extras for my children. And they grew up with this number of children that come from problem homes.
So the problem children coming home, good child, going to the problem. And, now I'm laughing at it. But the reason why I'm sharing this to you, because I don't want you to be sitting where I was, 5 years ago? 5 years ago, exactly. 5 years ago was when I was abused to the point, if my ex-husband gave me one more punch, I would have I would have died. But because of the grace of God, he gave me another chance, the gazillion chances he gave me. But I took that, and because of the good moral support I have from my family and my sister, Tiare, that made me reach the goal that I have. All my goals that I always dreamed of that was floating there, I finally jotted it down when I turned my path in 2019.
That's a good thing that you picked, eh?
Yes.
See, I teach the list, eh? And this the list I told her, like this morning, we were talking about that. You remember when people were still in primary school then. I was saying it in the family table talk this morning on how I put cost to sending them to school, making their lunches, their uniform, their shoes. And I said, you're not going to pay me back. Or don't ever think that I'm showing it to you because to be a burden, because they were still children then. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No.
But the only reason I was putting it up is to tell them, like at the end of the year, do you feel that whatever that we have invested in your life, even though we are your parents, what is the best thing that you can do to, vouch for that, investment? And not only that, I teach them how to write their list. I give their time. And it's good that she's sharing from her level, because you can be right there in church. You can be hearing the good message. You can be having the good counsel. You can have your mom and your dad, who have all the time to take you through. But the onus is you. And that is what she's sharing today. All those teaching over the years, like 5 years ago, how old were you?
32.
32.
32.
So you're 37 now?
I'm 37.
Okay. So when she reaches her age of 31, 32, then she goes back to the basics she was taught growing up. Then she started writing her list. Then she started going to church. So, I mean, this is reality.
Yeah,
you know?
it is. Like, I'm the reason why
Yeah.
I'm so eager to share about this,
Yeah.
because I work with ladies as well, and some of them are way older than me. You should it's an opportunity, a blessing, I would say, when people are sharing their experience, because hearing, for me, like for those of you that are wise beyond your years, like my younger siblings, if you're hearing me, you would say, why waste those years?
Yeah.
This takes me back to those of you that are where you are
Yeah.
right now. Write down your goal, what you want to achieve, and stay on course.
Yeah.
Everything in life is enjoyable. Yes, it's there. Your parents won't stop you,
Yeah.
or you can do it at whatever cost you're going at. But is it worth it? And how bad do you want your goal?
Yeah.
Would you, like in 5 years' time, would you want to look back and say, oh, I should have not, which is what I'm doing. Because to tell you this, after I've experienced all of that, it took a while for my family. I think, Mom, if you remember, we had a family vacation. I think it was during COVID at Radisson. My mom, well, she actually had to build my self-esteem. Your parents have done so much work, which I would say my family has done so much work, building a person, encouraging you from a very young age, the basics of living life. When you write down your list, you're making, all I could say is, how would you want your parents to view that all the expenses used and paid, that you get to use it back on them? I was crushed to the point that I never saw myself even valuable, not even worth coming before my family. It took a while for me to even come and sit with them. I saw it that way, but they saw it as, you're part of the family. Come, move closer, be confident, move forward, because that's how we were raised. But because of how I abused my life, where I had it good and I decided, oh, I'll go and enjoy, fun is just for a short bit.
The pleasure is
the
not...
pleasure, it's not worth it.
But the devil does it in...
Yes.
I mean, and make it so
Tempting, yes.
that you need to be...
Part of the crowd.
Yeah, and then it goes back to the fact that you really need to ground your faith.
Yes.
You need, as a youth, and you're a believer, you need to serve God because you know Him.
Yeah.
Don't serve God because your parents know God.
Yeah.
Or don't serve God because your family go to church. You serve God because you know your goodness come from Him. You serve Him because you have a relationship with Him. Because when you have that establishment, there's nothing in the world that can shake that. But if you go to church because your parents tell you to go to church, or because everybody have to go to church, or everybody in my family know nothing else but go to church. If you look at it that way, given every slight temptation, without your parents around you, you're bound to fall.
Yeah.
And the fall can be little, one at a time, for you to realize yourself. God is giving you opportunity to learn from it and move forward. But if you keep on allowing to keep on falling, then it takes you to where she reached. When she came back home, or when she came back to the Lord, I always that phrase, because home is always open. When she came back to the Lord, and I think when she stand and she looked at her siblings, she looked at her, because she's the eldest. When she looked at her siblings, they already own cars when they were still in university. They already have properties. They looking after their own lives. They are independent. And here she is, trying to make ends meet. And if you're listening today, that is the result of disobedience to your parents. Because if He says in His words in Ephesians 6:1, that when you honor your father and your mother, this is a commandment of God, that all will go well. That little phrase, all will go well, it actually means all. It means your health, your protection. It means your well-being. It means your work. It means your life and everything around you. It means your resources, your material resources, your spiritual resources. It basically means everything. So when you honor your parents, all these things come before your life. And not only that, it says you will live longer. And that is a promise. Nobody else is promising that, but God himself is promising that. So I will bring that on what she's sharing with you today. Like it only took her 5 years ago to come and realize what took the younger siblings when they were only in their teens to achieve. She achieved like double the time. And her elder son is 17 years,
Yeah, 17.
Her elder son is 17 years of age today. I mean, this year, Joshua. And if I turn my back and I'm listening and they're talking, not knowing, if you listen to their conversation, you might think that they are brothers and sisters because of the volume of wisdom that the son has. And even sometimes if she's talking to her two daughters, Joshua will say, Mom, you don't talk to them like that. Or Mom, stop spanking them. You should sit down and talk to them. Like you will hear that kind of conversation. Why I'm sharing this? Because, I mean, you people might be thinking, why do you want to come and talk about the dirty laundry and talk about, what they have been through? We are talking about it because she is bold enough now to say, yes, I've gone through that. I don't want any other child to go through that. Because she knows, what you went through. And you know that promise when it says in Ephesians 6:1, not only all will go well, but you will live longer. Like what I said, I've shared it a few times, and she's sharing it with you again today. The near-death experience that she had. She had two near-death experiences. One was to a relationship that she had after her marriage. A knife struck on her head. When her dad, when she called, made an effort to call, when her dad went to pick her up, her face and her body covered with blood. And the youngest son, Israel, was very young then. To bring them from their home and bring their items from their home, coming to my home in that stage. And then the second time around, according to the doctor, if she was 5 minutes late, she would have passed on. That comes with that promise. When you are obedient to you and you honor your parents, not only will all will go well, you live longer. But God continued to give that opportunity. And I believe your story may be similar to Rosie's today. You may have done things to your parents, or you may live a life that is totally opposite to the calling of God in your parents' lives, and you are facing maybe her first hit becomes your hit today. You haven't gone through the whole journey like she's sharing. Please take note, listen to the word of God, and take that turnaround to honor your parents. It took her a longest journey, but now, when she's writing a list, even me, I am excited. Now when she's back in church and she will become, hey, this thing happened to me. She'll be saying this to her brother and her sister. This thing happened to me. And she'll be so excited. And we're all looking. I said, yeah? Like, God is so good. This thing happened to me. I said, yeah? Well, you people are not excited. I said, we've been excited for the longest time. You're just feeling it now. Because it was always there. Now you're feeling it.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we will move to Nate, like Ropin, whatever that you want to share with us today in terms of, like your upbringing or your friends, what they go through. And the language that they use out there. Sometimes they give up on life. Sometimes like there's nothing to go back to home. And sometimes I believe for a few prayer requests that came on how they begin to face problems in their marriage, they didn't get married because they want to. Yeah. They got married because they want to run away from home. Or they were just looking for somebody to love them because they don't feel loved at home. They were just looking out for somebody who loved them. And it means foregoing anything and breaking all the rules being taught from home to find that. So share anything with us today.
Well, Vinaka, what I would like to share, as you mentioned, friends out there, or people who some go to school with, like nowadays there are so much, I could say, temptations that are everywhere.
Yes.
So in my experience, when I was going through the teenage pregnancy, like for the longest time of my life, I was going from houses to houses. Like when you see me now, you think that I didn't go through a lot back then. But it took that the things that I went through. It took a lot to get me to where I am today. I have friends who. Now they message me up because they see the life that I'm living now. Some of them, they message me trying to, they ask me questions or ask me for advice on the relationship that they're having at the moment. A lot of times, like you mentioned that some of our girls, they try to get married because they look for love out there, or sometimes you get married because you get pregnant and then you rush to a marriage. A lot of situations, some of my friends or the people that are around me, they rush to a marriage because their parents tell them to get married as soon as they are pregnant. My advice is, for myself, I thank God that my mother-in-law told us to wait, so that we could rekindle our love for each other. Because sometimes you get married because there's a baby there, and you just for the wrong reasons. Like you just get married because there's a baby there. Balatani like we kenda na kevit na kawit okay. Wakai kenda wakakota me na vamandua na lomani matu bubale. So ona kita, or especially your dad, and sanga me ko vawati meroni maroroi or meroni sudu me nangwane and andela ni lotu mixawa mau. Hindi na nindonu ya, but my advice is, I would say, if inakadaki me ko wawa, like to rekindle or mero, like for a couple, moro velo money, just not to get married because of your child, because a lot of relationship, when they get married just because of the baby, it always it doesn't work out. Like I have a lot of people or a lot of friends, a lot of relatives that just get married because of the child. So I was blessed because like we had the time. We had like 3 years. Sunny, he was 3 years, then we got married. And I'm blessed with that because if it wasn't for that, if we would have rushed into the getting married part, I don't believe that we would be together, because we got married just because of Sunny. So there's a lot of we can do like wrong vosa. Like I went through na wrong vosa from outside, friends and family and all. But to like, you trust in yourself, and it took a lot of prayer, and it took a lot of just listening to God and just reading His Word, and just realizing that there's no one else that could help you but God alone to help you with your situation. So for young moms, I believe, don't just get married because you need to. You need to trust in the Lord and pray about it. The only thing that you can do is pray about it. You can face everything. You will face. You will face all the hardships.
You have to expect it because something happened. You know, something happened. So no one will say, okay, you know, just leave her alone. No, everything is going to be good. Like something happened. Gebale besana vanua kenda tiku kina bararabi kenda mandanga se vakanichi kwe wange kota talamendo abakatu na ikorongo da tunga na mosa se vakanichi mandanga iko kota talamendo memendo talanu musni vakani na vosa ko kati niko, it's always there. The words will always be there, but it really depends on you how you're going to be resilient to everything happening. And you say to yourself, no, you know, even I'm going through this, man, I have to survive this. I have to survive this, because it's no longer just you surviving; it's you and your child surviving. Well, she's sharing from that standpoint of going through what she had. But for you, now you hear the both. You know, you hear what it took to have the teenage pregnancy, and you hear what it took her, you know, for that wilderness moment in just not listening to the parents. Kwa kitu binakat me kitu wase niko as a youth niko se wanele kutumbo dakiti wa iko sarongo da tiko kana na bika wase tiko niko iko sana roni kila mo bandi ta kana matinelo mo biena bono mo la ku kina serta mo taka iko sarongo da niko na ngone ko dingita ka kingo gona kayado nyu dingita kango gona kayado iko saroni ka okay au na senta lini valu sino na mo trial and error but iko sarida nga iko sakila na da mo dingita Rosi has got 3 sons. 3 sons and 2 girls. The 3 sons stay with me. So most of the time when we do our talk or when we do our student council talk or we do our devotion, you know. If you look at your mom, you know the decision that she made, and you look at your Auntie Kula and your Uncle Elancha and Auntie Fia and the decision that they made. You see the life that she lived, leaving home earlier, not going to church, disobeying the parents. You see the life here. I will not tell you much. You just look at these 2 scenarios and you say to yourself which way you want to go. You want to go this way or you want to go this way. That is the decision I will not make for you. You will need to make for yourself. And that is exactly what we are trying to put those 2 scenarios to you as a youth listening today. You can start what it takes then, what it takes on this angle. So, kaya makayo ko sanggit tumbuta kiti ko na high school, sang ko chiko may na temptation of our boyfriend, our girlfriend, you can kila. Na boyfriend and girlfriend, regardless, the boyfriend and girlfriend are opposite sex. And opposite sex, they attract. You can go, kero friend to nga. Kaya baka sa mga kero friend to nga. Iyan na friend to nga na you will be confronted with that question, can you have sex with me? And these are the things we don't talk about normal. But we want to talk about here. This is a youth stand-up program. We are talking on the family table talk with people who have made, mistakes and now they are having families and we are trying to counsel them from there. But you are youth, which means you have the time on your hands to change where you're going to end. You have that ability. We are talking on the family table talk with people who have made decisions like this, and we are trying to correct or help them. The counsel that they never heard from home, the direction that the instruction that they never hear, the counsel, all those things we are trying to do now. But for you, you're hearing at the right time. Niko youth tiko bakaronga tiko saron yo kila saranga na tabi ko roni the kaba. Kembala, you may make mistakes, but not as what it's supposed to be, because you know the wrong decision you make and where it's going to take you. Yeah. You know, which I would say people are blessed to be hearing something privy.
Truly blessed. Like when I first heard about the Youth Senate was during COVID. When I heard the first program that came out and I was listening to the young people, I had hope that there was a program like that during our time. Yeah. Because during my years, I would say it was more traditional, like it was a culture, but my parents had provided an environment where we could speak up. But because I felt where other children were at home, it wasn't as private as how we were. Yeah. But then you are blessed because I wouldn't wish my life on anyone. And if I do hear people sharing about what they're going through, I immediately tell them, don't do that, go the other way. The reason being is I've been through 2 marriages. I have 5 children. I got married 2005, 2004, August. So divorced twice with gazillion jobs. Every time my mom hears I've got a new job, she says, you'll finish all the companies in Fiji before you actually settle for one. The reason why I'm saying this is you may say, oh, you got work experience. When people say to me, you got a lot of work experience, I tell them no. It was my attitude. It takes us back to all our decisions in life is based on our attitude, your character as a person. And when you're matured or or you're grounded in the faith, it takes us back to what pushes you on a daily basis. What have you gotten written down? If you don't have a goal in life and no purpose of living, and when you finally found what you're looking for, by the time you look back, you would regret most of the decisions you're making. Yeah. And trust me, being a female, it's not a good thing because it becomes you. And it would take someone who's resilient to look past what people think of you for you to tell yourself, no, God is defining who I am. Yeah. And I've made mistakes, yes, that's there. Someone else can learn from it, which is what I'm doing now. Yeah. Most of you would think that, why would I come and talk about my life? I'm talking about my life because I wouldn't want a parent, to lose their child based on a simple, stupid mistake just because you're angry with your parents, please don't vent it on them. Sit down with them and tell them, which is the mistake I made. Sometimes we think our parents are telling us this, it becomes irritating, and you tell them, and you're thinking, but they give me time to speak. I'm sure most of you have time with your whichever either parent you're close to. Take that opportunity. Just when you're washing or singing with them, don't get carried away. That's the time you air out your problems to them and ask them for advice, which is what I lacked during my high school years. I thought I was smarter, which I'm pretty sure now with technology going up, you think you're smarter than your parents. So I've heard children talk like that to their parents when they come to the workplaces I've worked. My advice to you is just take a time to sit down with your parents and understand why they do the things they do for you. When you do understand where your parents are coming from, then the pathway to your dream or your goal that you've jotted on will be much more clearer. No matter what anyone says or the influences that come your way, it will not deter you.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that, because ever since I came back, 2019, I told myself I will write down my list. When I wrote down my list, the things that I did not imagine that would happen actually did. And the places you think that it would never come, it came. My advice to you is when you ground your faith in the Lord and you do things because you want to do it, it's from your
heart,
from your heart. It's not only doing it because you love the Lord, you also have to forgive those who have hurt you along the way. It takes a lot from a person. For those of you that have reached where I am, or those of you that are halfway, or those of you that think life has no purpose for you, or those of you who are just starting. We are here trying to get a message across to you that it's never too late to redirect your course, to say a hi, or to drop by your family home, to say thank you. Even when your mom just calls to say, how are you doing? Because in those years, well, the times I would pick up the phone, sometimes I'll call my mom and hang up. I don't know whether you remember some calls. I would just get dropped. And sometimes just sit down, have a book, and just write the Bible verses that capture your attention whenever you open the Bible. For those of you who are not Christians, I have a friend she's a Methodist. She's a Christian. What I always tell her is, as long as God hears your prayer, it's not how people tell you,
and it's not the church that you go to.
It's not the church that you go to.
As an individual, right?
Exactly. You tithed your church, and she did it for just, 2 weeks? A few of her prayer lists were answered. She has a daughter. Her relationship is on the mend. Like anything that's being shared to you from here, it's out of our love for you to have a closer connection with your family and a closer connection with God.
Amen.
Because we would like to see people successful. I, for myself, no one would ever imagine meeting me for the first time, the life I have lived. I went from a loving home. She came from a troubled home. I mean, not really, like, things weren't going her way. We switched places. But like we were sharing last sharing time when we were here, I told my mom, I really sounded stupid on air. Because I was sharing to you how I went in, out,
like
in, out.
Yo-yo. So last week we called her Rosi yo-yo. Because from one place to another, and they never learn from even all those experiences. So you may be listening today, or parents listening to me today. Sometimes you want to give up on your child because it's so rebellious and nothing right that they do. You know, trust me, I have reached there. I've reached a point that I've stopped for a moment. I stopped praying for my daughter. That every time that I do, like even when I hear the painful things that she does, or she does the painful things that she always do to me, that I've reached a point when I sit before God, that when I cry, there is no tears coming. I know the feeling. You may, relate to what I'm sharing to you today. I've reached those moments. Those moments that sometimes I stand still before God. I mean, decade. She left home when she was only in her teens. She got married very young. All these decisions that she made in her life, I'm always either counseling her or having the opportunity to talk to her when we do meet. But I will never force her out of the life that she was living. And it was a journey. And through that journey, I remember one moment, which now I'm sharing the word of God and I'm preaching, and I said, never ask God why. I reached a point in my life, not with anything else, but just with my daughter. Not with life, not with finances, not with my husband, not with anything else, but just my daughter. That I've sat before God and just ask and stop praying and just ask Him why. Every time I come before Him, I'm just asking why. That comes with mixed feelings and have affected my faith and pushed me to the corner. That I dread answering the phone, or people coming home that I don't know, or people coming to the office, they want to see me because of her. And that journey, I would say, has molded me to be the person I am. So if you're a parent who is listening to me today and have gone through that experience, never give up and don't lose hope. Continue to hold on, because there is a light at the end of that tunnel. That child is given to you. You're blessed with it. No matter how rebellious he or she may be, that child, God bless you with it. And don't ever think that God makes a mistake. He doesn't. Because I have really stood my ground with God and did all the fasting that I could ever think of. And did everything right and sacrificed everything. Tell Him anything and everything. You tell me something to do today, I will do it. Whatever you want me to do, I will do it. I was offering anything and everything to God just for Him to bring my daughter home. And if He doesn't bring her home, at least just to make her change her life. But those moments, it took 2 decades, nearly 20 years for that to happen. And so if you are just experiencing it now, hold on to that faith. Like what Asinate is sharing with us today. There are certain moments of your life you know that the world cannot fix you. Nobody else can, but only God can. And that is what we would like to channel our talk today, regardless of what you go through on this end, whether you're a child or whether you are still trying to find your way through, or whether you're a parent or mom or dad that you at the edge of giving up. We would like to be the voice of hope to tell you, hold on a little bit longer. And if you're a child, you may not know what your mom or your dad is going through, then you need to know today what your parents always go through. I have a mom or a friend that usually send me her prayer requests, and she'll always say, Rai, I am tired of standing at our porch and looking out into the driveway every Sunday morning or Monday mornings. It's either Sunday or Monday morning, looking out when my son is going to come back home. And when they do, I'm crying and praying, and when he does walk through that gate, when I feel this anger welled up within me, just so angry. And you may be like that friend of mine. There is every weekend, it doesn't change. All you do is wait and look out to the gate or look out to the door where it's going to open. And it pushes you to the fact, like for me, towards, I know she got married, she had her life, and even in her marriage and whatever she was going through, she continued to do what the things that she does. And I was ready in that moment. I've gone past all the prayer requests that I speak, all the good words to God, to make it with the young woman or the young girl that I aspired my daughter to be. I've resorted to only 2 prayer requests that I come before God and continue to ask Him to, Lord, the only thing I ask you, I just need you for my daughter. I know she grew up in a home that talks about you. I just need her to receive you as her personal Savior. And 2, please spare her life. Spare her life. Whatever life that she's living, spare her life. Allow her to be still alive, to know you. And I'm looking forward to those 2, to that date. And those are the 2 prayer requests I believe that have taken me for the last decade of the 2 decades. And every time I'm looking at the phone, and if it's a number that is not in my contact list. My mind is always rushing. What if it's something to do with that? And that is why when the call comes and she's hurt or she's injured, that cry of a mother that you can identify with me if you're a mom, that cry, they just cried and said, Lord, no matter how badly injured she may be, no matter how bad she is, I need you to save her breath. If it means just to save her breath for an hour, to be conscious, to receive you, then that's good enough for me. And I believe there are a lot of parents out there that you've cried the tears for your children. That sometimes you don't know what will become of them. And for you children who are listening to us today, you may not know the things you're doing to your parents. To you will come back home and your mom or your dad is screaming their heads off, but you still rebellious, walk into your room, slam the door, and saying to yourself, I don't know why they're so worked up for, I was just with my friend. Or I was just like, you have a very good reason for staying out. But you really push them to be so worried and, stay up the whole night looking out for you. And I would like to encourage you today. Always remember, I will tell you again, Jeremiah 29:11. He knows the plans he has for you. And also the Ephesians 6:1, that you need to honor your parents. We were driving in Nandi. We were actually down in Nandi for a few days during school holidays. And when we were driving back, and I looked at her and I said, it's a Rosi. Who will ever imagine that one day you will own a car? One day you will be driving a car that belongs to you? Who imagine, whoever knows about this day? And it's only God. So we were having that conversation driving back to where we were staying. Just thinking back of those time on what God can do, which I believe it didn't take our position as parents or our position in the church because we are believers, but it took God only to make that change. And what Asinate is sharing with us today on you young girls, who go out of your way to, and sometimes it can be a mistake, sometimes it's a spur of the moment. Sometimes it can be to a boyfriend. The boys are not affected because they do what they do and they go back to their home. Young girls are affected because you are affected with the pregnancy and nothing. And the stigma and everything that comes, there's less going to the boys, is more coming to the girls. So first, you don't know how to manage your pregnancy. You've never been pregnant before, on how to deal with that and how to deal with everything that is coming your way. So when you survive that, I would like to take my hat off you, that it took a lot to do that, to survive the fact that you have to give birth to that child that you've never learned or studied how you're going to look after, and because you're still a child yourself, and to be hearing all these words that in different moments, they are most lovable to you. You hear good words from them. But that flick of a moment, when that thing happened, it can be the same person who always speaks good words to you. The same person is actually talking down to you for that mistake made. So you can be, at this moment, facing what we are sharing today, and you hearing all these things, and sometimes it pushes you to commit suicide. I've shared this with my preaching, with my sharing a few times, of this young girl that called me at about 1 to 2 in the morning. When she called, she was just crying. And when I started talking to her, I don't know her before. She was just crying and saying, I actually have a rope on my neck. I'm standing on the bucket, empty biscuit bucket under a tree. And when she was sharing her story, she said, Randini, I am pregnant. And my dad is very strict. My dad will kill me. She kept on saying that. My dad will kill me. My dad will kill me. And I continued to remind her and continued to tell her, ask her, where are you at? And she said, I'm here. I don't know, but before I kick this bucket, I am just so burdened to call you. And when I was talking to her, I can hear the desperation. She's already foreseeing what will happen to her because of the mistake made, which cannot be undone. And when I was talking to her, the only thing I was telling her, I need you to take that rope off your neck. She argued for a while, crying, took a lot of experience I've gone through, but that phone call, a lot of people always call for prayers, but this phone call I continue to share over the years because it had affected me in one way or the other, because I also have daughters. And she kept on saying, no, my father will kill me. And I said, okay, forget about your father. Take your father out of your mind. Take your mom out of your mind. You just look at yourself. Just get your name, put it on your mind, and say, this is me. If you're looking at yourself and you're talking to me on the phone, and look at your current situation with that rope on your neck, is it worth it? Don't worry about your parents. You just worry about yourself. Is this the way you want to go? If it is not, I will continue to talk to you until you take the rope off, which she did. And then she said, it's so dark here. And I said, okay, can you see a light? I said, I'm not far from the street. I can see the street light. I said, I will need you to walk to that street. Look for a light. I will need you to reach that light. And I will not stop talking to you. I will continue to talk to you on the phone. I will pray with you, talk with you on the phone until when you reach the light and then you tell me I've reached the light. So we continue to talk. I continue to guide her, continue to pray over her life. I just want to continue to hear her voice to try and take her away from that mood, the depressed, suicidal mood. So as I was talking with her, then she said, okay, Auntie Rai or Randini, I'm here under the street light. And I said, okay, now we will talk. The Bible says, isn't that, are you a believer? Yes, I know Jesus. My family, they serve Jesus. My family, we know God. And said, okay, if you know God, then this is the way to go. Look, the same God you're praying to and we're talking to now, that same God creates your dad. The same God creates your mom. This God that we're talking to, he can change your dad's heart. He can change your mom's heart. I just need you to come in agreement with me as we pray together that you're going to go knowing, physically you know your parents, what they're capable of, but spiritually you know your God and what he can do. And on that, she managed to go back home. Then we lost contact because I never took her name down. I don't even know where she stays. And one time we were in a church, it was on a Sunday at the gymnasium. And after the church service, when everybody has gone, we always sit around, drink tea or coffee. We were sitting around. Then at the corner of my eye, I saw this young lady and the mom. Somebody came and he said, that a mother and daughter, they would like to come and see you. And I said, okay. So I walked towards them. When I did, she just had to say, Randini, praise the Lord. That voice, I remember the voice on the phone. So I look at them, and the mother came and hugged me, and she said, my daughter was the one who called you. Thank you. Because without that phone call, I wouldn't have my daughter with me today. And the daughter turned around to me and she said, it's amazing. I went and I shared it with my mom first, and then we both went and shared it with my dad, and I am here. And said, okay, you remember that night we continued to tell me that my dad will kill me, my dad will kill me. So what happened? I said, no, he didn't kill me. So, and it's amazing. She's a graduate. She went on and finished her study. She graduated. She had a very beautiful family, have got children, have a very good job. What I'm trying to tell you today, from her experience, if you happen to be one of those girls who are affected right now or have been affected with this same thing that we are trying to share with you, always remind yourself it's not the end of your time. It's not the end of the tunnel. There's always a light of hope. It depends on your attitude. It depends on how you're going to stand up and make it work. And you can stand up today and say to yourself, I'm going to be a better version of myself, and I'm going to go this way. So I shared last week, when that happened to Nate, we had our moments of, given the option to finish her study, go to school. I look after the child and lived her life, that by the time she decides to really settle down, or when they decide to settle down, it's something that they want to do and not anything forced on them. And I remember, not now that we are sharing this, the moments when you have to take Sunny with you and stay here, stay there, and I will come and bring things to where you people are. Maybe as we round up today, because we only have 3 minutes left, maybe some of the young mothers today they're not accepted from the home that they're in, and they're always looking out, if something happened here, where will I take my son? And if the atmosphere is so abusive, which way to go? Where will I take my child? And sometimes you are with your child in one place and you hear words and you know fully well you're not welcomed. So your mind starts racing, where to from here? What next? You know? So if you can give any words of advice to those young women maybe going through that at this moment, what can work for them?
So praise the Lord. For me and Sunny, I think we went to 3 different houses when I was conceived with Sunny, because I couldn't stay with my son in my own home because of the things that I was going through at home. And I think you just need a good support system.
Yeah.
Sometimes don't kuni rei balak-laka ikoroni rather na there's a family or some relatives out there that could help you. So we went to another 3 different homes until I was trying to cope for my son, because at the end of the day, it's your son who is more important to you than anyone else. So if you have, try and look out for a good support system, and also always trust in the Lord. Psalms 118 verse 8, it says it is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. So pray about it. It took a lot in me. I could say, always tell him about your life, tell him about your child. And try and think of a good relative. There's always family or a relative out there that would be more than happy to take you in. But do not give your child away, or do not give up in life. There's always hope. When you're living, there's always hope out there, that someone out there would always help you.
Well, we would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. I am blessed, and I'm really blessed and inspired with these 2 young ladies willing to share their lives and willing to share their experiences that can either help you in your current situation or help you choose the direction you want to go when you are going to be faced with these things, knowing fully well the repercussion of your decision today. So if you are still young and have the ability to finish your studies, please by all means finish your study. And if you are given the option to study in your tertiary, please go ahead and finish it. Because temptations will come and can stop you short of your education, of your exposure. But over the years, way down the years, then you will say, I should have finished it, or I could have finished it. When you're looking for jobs here or you're trying to make a life here, then you will regret the decision that you have made earlier. So to those of you that are listening in, or like for the church, what we do for the church that we go to, or for the youth that are listening today, when you have your relationship, you're already working, or maybe in tertiary, and you know, moving forward, this is the guy or the woman or the girl that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So what we do, we pray over them. I'll bless their relationship. And they know the rules. They know the do's and the don'ts until the do's become legal and all those things. So we try and help as much, and we try and facilitate that support, like what Asinate mentioned today, the support system. And for us parents, sometimes we get so angry because you have so much planned for your daughter, and it happened this way. But because it happened, you cannot undo it. There's always a way to receive them, and which other way. You can still achieve where you were channeling them, but maybe now a little bit different because you have a little sibling along the way being part of that path, for them to achieve what they desire to achieve. So on that note, we would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today in these 2 young ladies sharing their experiences. We will continue to share, bringing them in, and bring Tiari in on how being obedient, staying in, and managing your life well and managing your funds well to what you can achieve within the small age you've got compared to how you get into your 30s and 40s and start achieving. There is another enlightening angle to the conversation as a youth, like you stand out. Because when you serve God, you stand out. And I love the fact that they both of them emphasize today to trust in God. In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, you trust in God with all of your heart, not in your own understanding. Your understanding is thinking, okay, I have good parents, or I'm good to go. I'm strong enough. I can forego that. No, you trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, you must acknowledge Him. He will and He shall direct your path. So hold on to that faith. And if you say to us today, oh, going to church is so boring. No, going to church is so exciting. And even though how boring it may be boring now, but it's going to be exciting because it's going to give you a good life. It may be exciting in the world now, but it's going to give you a boring ending, like moving forward. So choose the right path and make the right decision. Love your parents. If you have been so rebellious to your parents, please, after this session, hug your mom, hug your dad. Man, I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't realize that coming late from going out social life, that you are crying and, worried and sick over me. Please forgive me. Hug them and tell them that you love them. Don't wait until something happened in their life for you to miss them. While they're still alive, hug them and tell them, thank you for being my mom. I'm blessed to have you as my dad. You are the best dad ever. So say that to your parents today. Well, we'll say our goodbyes because we're coming to the end of the program today. Say your goodbyes, ladies.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in.
And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next Saturday. You'll send a program at 11 o'clock.
I am here with God. Bring it on.
Man, the bills, the mountains that is up there for you. Take one day at a time.
Financial difficulties. Situation in your home. Relationship. Bring it on.
Souls to Jesus program every Monday to Saturday 2 to 4 p.m. only on My TV.